Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Layla, and for today's video, I'm giving my thoughts on Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Now, before I go through Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, I know that people are huge fans of Dave Ramsey, and I don't blame y'all. When I started my debt-free journey back in 2018, I actually consumed so much Dave Ramsey content. I just found it, one, really entertaining, but I did learn quite a lot. And then I found all of it super motivating, especially the debt-free screams. However, I did not follow his 7 baby steps, and it's still something that I don't follow because I have some different opinions on them. That's the whole point of this video. I'm going to share my thoughts on his baby steps. But in general, I know that these steps are great for a lot of people, and I am not here to say that you following it is a bad thing. So please, before you leave any sort of negative comment, any of Dave Ramsey's fans, I'm not here to hate on Dave Ramsey. I think his content is great. Some of his stuff is a little intense, but yeah, overall, I understand that his message is a positive and a good one. So I'm going to be watching his video, The 7 Baby Steps Explained. I will have this link down below. It looks like he uploaded it about 3 years ago, but these baby steps have been in place for many, many years. So,
and they have become the proven plan, the shortest distance between where you are now and wealth. Where you are, if you'll live like no one else later, you can live and give like no one else. What is the shortest distance? And we need a path to run on, because the way you eat an elephant, it's overwhelming. Do I do my 401k with the match, or my kid's college? Or do I have an emergency fund? Or do I pay on this 18% credit card debt? Or, and nothing gets done. You get paralysis of the analysis, you get frozen.
Absolutely. And this step, these baby steps have worked for me. They've worked for millions, and it's really simple. If you do it, they work. And it all starts with baby step 1, having this foundation, saving $1,000 for a starter emergency fund. This is just a small buffer between you and life before we start tackling the debt.
Exactly. And if you have $1,000 already.
So far I've just been watching the intro, and George just said it. This has helped millions of people, which I don't disagree with. I think the great thing about his baby steps is exactly what he was just explaining, the paralysis from analysis. Where do I start? I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, and it does give you clear steps to follow, which I think a lot of people need. But personally, I just don't think these are the best steps to follow. There are other, finance people out there who have better steps, in my opinion. But yes, I do know that overall it works for a lot of people.
Already? Great. Just set that aside. That's your baby step 1. Any money you have that's not retirement, anything you can sell that is not retirement, you're going to liquidate it. If it's not retirement, you got some stock over here that grandpa left you. You got a gold bar under your bed. I don't know what it is, but you got any money that's above $1,000. Maybe you got $10,000 in a savings account. That's $9,000 you've got that you don't need past baby step 1. We're going to put it all on baby step 2. And baby step 2 is the famous one. That's the debt snowball, where you list your debts smallest to large.
Okay. So he kind of just flew over baby step number 1, which is a $1,000 emergency fund. And what he was just saying in this video specifically, if you have anything above that, if you have $10,000 in savings, if you have a gold bar, you're going to liquidate that and put it toward baby step 2. And I don't think you should do that. If somebody is starting with his baby steps and already has, several thousand in savings, and then they're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to get rid of all my savings. This day and age, like in 2025, when I'm filming this, and even at the time when he filmed this, $1,000 is not enough money. I understand it's a starter emergency fund. However, when you start tackling debt, once you begin your debt-free journey, emergencies are going to pop up. So that $1,000 is probably going to be depleted sooner rather than later. I know, speaking from experience, that happened to me multiple times throughout my debt-free journey. So if you have more than $1,000 in your savings, I say keep that. I would say it's okay to put some amount toward your debt, like move on to baby step number 2, but just completely liquidating things, like if you have money that is invested already, you know what I'm saying? Like I would not do that. That's strange advice in my opinion. And whenever I mention Dave Ramsey in my videos and his $1,000 starter emergency fund, people always are like, they say to start with $1,000. That is just a starter emergency fund, and then you move on. I understand that, so I understand it's a starter emergency fund, but even then, that's not enough. I think that's a great place to start, yes, but I don't think it should stop there. Like, I think people should keep on adding even just a little bit on a monthly basis to their emergency fund. Like, it shouldn't just be $1,000 and you're done and then move on. I think it should be $1,000. Start paying on your debt, but also start putting some extra to your emergency fund or just savings in general. Because yeah, like I said, for some people, it's going to take several years to pay down their debt. $1,000 to cover several years, especially if you have children, especially if you own a home, you have an older car, that's going to go. It's not going to be enough. If you need 2 tires, like, your money's gone.
Or just you pay minimum payments on everything but the little one, and you attack the little one with a vengeance. Side note, baby step 1 should not take you more than 30 days.
Oh, wow.
Maximum. You need to work extra, sell some stuff, have a garage sale, put the kids on Craigslist, whatever you got to do here. Let's get it done.
Put the kids on Craigslist. I think, so I've worked with a lot of clients and, helping them to pay off their debt, budgeting, that sort of thing. And getting to $1,000 can be really tough, especially if you're in a place where you have a lot of minimum payments and, everybody's situation is different. So that does happen for a lot of people. And they have children, multiple children. Those children cost money. And then we put together their budget and see what's left over at the month. And sometimes people don't have enough money left over. Sometimes they go into the negative. So they have to go into further debt every month. And there is no room for saving. So yes, you can go and, get a second job, sell things around the house. I do agree with that. But for some people, it is not very easy to just come up with $1,000 in 30 days. Dave Ramsey's approach is very all or nothing. And while I think that's great, because I've worked with a lot of people, it has increased my empathy for people and also my understanding of people because, yeah, situations are just so different and it's not black and white. Finance is not black and white. It's definitely possible for many people to go extreme, but it's also not possible for a lot of people. I know I'm kind of like repeating myself with that, but yeah, I've just seen it firsthand. And then baby step 2, if y'all caught it, y'all probably already know it anyway. It is to pay the minimums on all your debts except for the small ones. So this is the debt snowball method. If you are curious about that, I have a video on the debt snowball versus debt avalanche and which is better. I do think the snowball is a great method to tackle your debt. Personally, I prefer the avalanche, but a lot of my clients use the snowball, and I know a lot of people out there prefer the snowball because it's something that allows you to, pay off a debt, move on to the next one pretty quickly. So let's see what else he has to say.
And we're going to get busted into this, get $1,000 quick. Baby step 2, you should be debt-free, but your house, now you may have to sell a stupid boat. You may have to take an extra job. But most people that have followed the Total Money Makeover baby steps in Financial Peace University are debt-free inside of 2 years.
Yeah, and that's with doing it with some gazelle intensity, like you talk about in Financial Peace University. And once you pay off all that debt, now you've freed up all those payments, right? You have that income
Think
back
about
in
what
your
it'd be
life.
like to have no payments but a house payment. Wow.
We're breathing easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can move on to baby step 3.
Yep, I agree. I love being debt-free. I do not have a mortgage, so I'm just completely debt-free at this point. And not having to owe anybody money is such a beautiful thing. I definitely agree with that. It did take me longer than 2 years, though. However, I was not gazelle intense, as he says, because, and maybe we'll probably talk about this more later, but I personally believe that we should live life while we're alive. And, when he talks about paying down debt, he's like, you don't go in a restaurant unless you're working there. You just eat rice and beans. There's no traveling. I don't agree with that because I could die tomorrow. While I was on my debt-free journey, I could have died the next day, To me, I found it very important to still live life, and that's the approach that I take with my clients and what I like to encourage here. So obviously that's the approach that I prefer to take because, eating rice and beans doesn't fit my lifestyle, that's for sure. And I'm okay with going to a restaurant here and there. If you're tackling your debt, I think it's okay to travel because we are earning our money and you should be able to put that to use, There's actually a debt-free scream on his channel where it was a husband and wife who were tackling their debt. And right after, I think it was actually like maybe right before they became debt-free, the husband died. And she came on there by herself to do her debt-free scream. But they did all of this work and then he died. And so, yeah, I was like, wow, that is a perfect example of why I don't believe in the gazelle intensity. Like, one, you're going to get more easily burnt out. And sure, 2 years is not that long in the grand scheme of things, but burnout really, really sucks. And I feel like when it comes to finances, it can just make you develop this negative feeling around money, and not something that I would want people to experience. And then, yeah, I just feel like you can't really enjoy life, and we're here to enjoy it. Okay, baby step 3.
Where we save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. This is the final buffer where we say we're never going back into debt because we are the bank now.
So baby step 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses. I think that's a good step after paying off your debt. Like I was saying before, I do think people should continue to add to their savings while they're paying down their debt, just because emergencies are going to pop up, even if it does just take 2 years to pay down your debt. I think this step is fine, but depending on people's situation, I honestly would say this should be step 1, like have 3 months of expenses before tackling your debt, just depending on your situation. If you own a home, if you have children, if you have pets, if you have an older car, something happens to 1 or 2 or 3 of those at the same time, yeah, you won't be worried about your debt then.
Rainy day fund. Why? It's going to rain. Dave, you need to be positive. I'm positive. It's going to rain. You need to be ready when crap happens. There's a pandemic coming around every corner. There's something coming. And if you have $20,000 cash in the bank, 3 to 6 months of expenses, whatever it is, and you have no payments, you are the third pig in the 3 little pigs, the one that's in the brick house when the big bad wolf comes. You're ready for life. You're ready to go. Now you're ready to build wealth. But that you just now have gotten up to ground zero. You've just now gotten up to even. When you have that emergency fund and you're debt free, now you're ready to build wealth. And in baby step 4, you put 15% of your income aside into good growth stock mutual funds in retirement plans. Start where there's a match. Beyond the match, always do Roth. And if you exhausted Roth and match and still are not to 15%, then go on to a traditional 401k or IRA. But do Roths before traditional and do match before Roths.
So I liked that little metaphor where you're the pig in the brick house prepared. That's great. I think emergency funds are amazing and do give you that peace of mind. So yeah, I already gave my thoughts on that. So baby step 4 is starting to contribute to retirement. And this is definitely where things to me get a bit twisted, So I think if you are able to, as long as you're not going into further debt on a monthly basis, you have enough cash flow and you have a company match. So you have a 401k with a 4% match, 5% match, whatever it is. I do think you should contribute up to that match. And oftentimes what people find is that they can handle that very easily, because what's happening if you're contributing to traditional, for example, which is what I prefer to do, and he's saying Roth, like just do Roth and up to the match and then Roth, which I think is okay. Yes, you're going to save money in the future, but if you do traditional 401k, you're going to lower your tax burden. So it definitely depends on your tax bracket, but you're going to lower your tax burden and you're not going to really feel that hit on your paychecks. Yes, you're going to be putting some money to retirement, which is a great thing, but because you're lowering your tax burden, you're not going to feel that difference too much. So my thought around taking advantage of a company match is like basically everybody should do it. Take advantage of it. Even if you don't have an emergency fund, even if you're at baby step 0, start contributing to that match, because that is part of your compensation. That is basically free money that you're leaving on the table. Now, this does depend. Make sure that you're vested immediately. Like if you were to leave the job in a few months, that, that money is yours. And yeah, like I was saying, if you're not able to stay afloat, you're, late on electric bills and that type of thing, that's different. That's a different story. But if you feel like, okay, I have some extra cash at the end of the month, every single month, you're probably good to start contributing up to the match with your employer. You don't need to invest beyond that if you don't want to. But then, yeah, focus on the emergency fund, start paying your debt. And honestly, I liked to invest while I was paying my debt. It just depends on the situation. If you are tackling your debt and, you took care of the high interest debt, which I think would be a better order to follow. You're tackling those credit cards, you're tackling the personal loans, even the car loan. But then all you have left is some medical debt or student loans that are super low interest rate. I think it's absolutely fine to start investing even if you're still tackling that debt, because your money is going to make more in the market for the most part. When I was paying off my debt, I was still investing, and I am very glad. I heavily focused on paying down my debt. Like I prioritized that, but I was also investing a little bit each year, and I know that that did help overall. So that's my thought on that.
It's mathematically in your favor to do that, up to the 15%. Don't do 20%, don't do 11%, do 15%. While you are doing baby steps 4, you're also going to be doing 5 and 6 simultaneously.
Okay, before we get to 5 and 6 simultaneously, he said 15%. I forgot to touch on that. 15% is good if you plan on working until you're 65 or older, which I know a lot of people are, and some, many people are okay with doing that, or they just are following that path. Like that's what is laid out for them. But as somebody who is exposed to the FIRE movement and listens to YouTube videos and podcasts focused around financial independence, I do prefer to invest more heavily if you are able to. So yes, 15% will have you be okay in retirement. You will become that, everyday millionaire, as he often talks about. However, there is no problem with investing beyond that 15%. Like if you can do 20%, 25%, that is amazing. We also don't know what things are going to look like. Like if you're, my age in your 30s, we don't know what Social Security is going to look like in 30 years. We don't know what the tax brackets are going to look like in 30 years. So I feel like the more that you can invest while you're young, the more we have time on our side, the better. Once you've paid off your debt, if you want to heavily focus on investing, I think that's great.
Baby step 5 is where we're saving for our children's college fund. And this is going to look different for everyone. There's no set number here because it really depends on your situation.
Did you have the baby last week, or is the baby 18? That makes a difference on how much you need for college, right? I mean, what you got to do for college. It's like, is this an oh crap moment, or hey, we're going to be diligent and save? Did we wait almost until too late? Now, they have to go to college debt free. They cannot participate in this epic student loan system failure that is called America right now. It is horrible out there. Do not let your kids go in debt. You do not have to go to debt. Go to community college for free for 2 years. Go to in-state school. Work 6 jobs, get scholarships. Our student loan problem is a parenting problem. Mom and dad let kids sign up for crap they couldn't afford.
Okay, so step 5 is not relevant to everybody because obviously if you don't have children, then you could just skip this. However, I think this might be controversial, but I think it's absolutely okay for you to not pay for your child's education. That's also speaking from experience where I had to take out debt to pay for my schooling because my parents could not cover the cost of tuition. I did go to an in-state university. I did not go to community college the first 2 years. I actually lived on campus, and I don't regret any of that. I did take on more debt to be able to do that. I also got my master's degree. I took on more debt than I needed to all throughout, but I feel like because of the path that I followed, it shaped who I am as a person. Like, I would not be who I am without all the debt that I built up. And I know that may not apply for everybody, but if you are a parent who, maybe you're 40 years old and you just started your debt-free journey, you have nothing in retirement, you have a negative net worth, your kids, in my opinion, are going to be better off if you focus on your finances, not theirs. If you're in your 40s or even 50s when you're starting this journey and you prioritize your children over your own, you're going to have a much lower net worth at retirement and possibly be dependent on your children. And to me, that is unfair. Like, your children should not be your retirement plan, even if you help them out. That's just my opinion because, your children did not ask to come into this world. You brought them here. So yes, I think absolutely if you can help them out, if you can prevent them going into debt, educate them on finances. That's one thing. I wouldn't just be like, hey, here's money, you're good to go. If you can teach them hard work and understand the value of a dollar, I suppose, that's amazing. And if you do have the means to support them financially to go to school or whatever it is that they're trying to pursue, that's great. But I know that a lot of people can't. And it is okay, in my opinion, to prioritize yourself over your children when it comes to finances. I do think it's ideal for students to avoid student loan debt because it does put you in a pretty tough situation once you graduate. But him saying like work 6 jobs, like that is really hard. I was going to school full time and then working 2 jobs, and that would not have even touched tuition. Like that was just paying for my groceries. You barely make money doing the work that is available to you as a college student, Of course, I think applying for scholarships and working toward that is amazing. I think going to community college for the first couple of years is great advice, those sorts of things. But the way he talks about it, he makes it sound super easy, and it's not like that. Like if you're going to be working 6 jobs while going to school full time, you're going to fail your classes. You're not going to get any sleep. You're going to be super burnt out, and you're probably going to have to drop out anyway because you're going to fail.
Bad mama, bad daddy.
They got to have the conversations. That's
Yeah.
where it starts. And
So-
there's a reason you say baby step 4, invest for yourself before the kids, because
No,
there's a
step
100% chance you're going to retire. There's a 50-50 chance or less these days that your kid's going to go to college.
And graduate.
And let me touch on this too, because yeah, he's saying there's a 100% chance you're going to retire, blah, blah, blah. So if Dave Ramsey is suggesting you start investing 15%, contributing 15% to retirement, that will work well for people who are young. But if you're only doing 15% and you started this at the age of 50, you're going to have a hard time retiring on that, which is why I'm saying all of this about your children in college.
Now, this less than 50% chance they're going to graduate. So this is important. So while you're doing 15%, you do whatever you need to do for your kids' college, whatever you decide to do for your kids' college. Beyond that, if you can find any money, you do that on baby step 6, and that's pay off your house. Start chunking on the house. Now, when you're in 1 through 3, you are so intense, your friends are free.
Baby step 6, pay down the house. I think that's great. I think if it's a home that you do plan on being in for the rest of your life, or at least for a very, very long time, this is fine. I think having a paid off house would be absolutely amazing. Imagine having no debt payments and then no mortgage to pay for, no rent to pay for. You would be in a dream spot. But many people are in a home that they're probably not going to retire in or not going to live in forever. So sometimes that's not the best move. Sometimes, I know right now the interest rates are a little bit insane, but you know, if you bought a few years ago and your interest rate is in the 2% or 3%, like you are fine to just pay the minimum, pay a little bit extra on a monthly basis or a yearly basis and kind of just ride that thing out because you're probably going to move anyway. So yeah, I think again, this is situational. If you think you're going to stay there forever, or if it's something where it would really help you out to not have that payment, then go for it.
Your grandmother thinks you need counseling. You are gazelle intense, like a gazelle running from a cheetah. When you're in 4 through 7, you're not intense anymore. You are now intentional. You're just doing it on purpose. But you're no longer on beans and rice. You're on beans and rice, rice and beans. Scorched earth on 1 through 3 till you get those 3 things done. Get that house paid off. The average person following this stuff is paying off their home in about 7 or 8 years. That tells us that the whole program is taking about 10 years, and the average baby steps millionaire, the average everyday millionaire that we've studied, we're finding them become a millionaire from the time they start with intensity followed by intentionality, become a millionaire in about 10.5 years.
Yeah.
11.2 years, 10.6 years are the 2 numbers we keep running into. So this is completely possible.
Yeah, and once you pay off that house, it's time to build wealth and give outrageously in baby step 7. That's where it ends.
Yeah, you will be a millionaire shortly after your home is paid for if you don't at that moment. And then you continue to build.
Okay, so step 7 is start investing more, give as you want to. But yeah, again, going back to, I like that he said you're being more intense in baby step 1 through 3. And then after that, you're being more intentional. I wish he would have explained his thoughts, and he probably does in his videos, but you know, I think it's okay to take vacations. It's okay to also give, while even in step 1 through 3, being generous during that time is important too. Like while I was paying off my debt, I was still donating on a monthly basis, and to me that was really important. I know that one of his famous phrases is like, live like no one else so later you can live and give like no one else. And I do agree with that, but I think having a balance is a much healthier approach, and kind of balancing life living with still being financially responsible is absolutely doable. And yes, like he was saying, there's a lot of studies that people can accomplish this in 10 to 12 years, but it's also okay for these things to stretch out into 15 or 20 years. Like you're still going to be killing it, and you may even be in a better place at that point. So sure, maybe you could follow this path for 10, 12 years and be completely debt-free, including the mortgage, and be a millionaire. But one thing he doesn't mention are people's incomes. So I think working on increasing your income, because if you're making, maybe you pay off all of your debt, but all that you're making is $40,000 in the year. So you investing 15% is probably not enough for you to, you know, quote unquote, retire a millionaire or reach millionaire status in 10 to 12 years. It heavily depends on your situation. And I feel like that is kind of the problem with his baby steps. Like, yes, it does give you a good plan to follow, but in my opinion, it is just too black and white. And there's a lot of gray matter with finance, you know, like everybody's situation is different, and his steps are much easier to follow for some people versus others. Overall, I would say I think his baby steps are clear and, understandable. I think if you follow those steps, you'd probably be fine. And obviously, he has a lot of studies and a lot of people have seen great success by doing these baby steps. But I think there's a lot of opportunity cost by following this to a T. You can probably make more money by investing while still paying down your debt. You can probably make more by investing instead of focusing on paying down your mortgage. You may be better off focusing on yourself versus your children, so there's just so much to consider. In my opinion, the people who should follow his steps or who want to follow his 7 baby steps are those who kind of are cool with the traditional path in life, and there's nothing wrong with that, like if you're okay with working 30, 40 years and, paying down that debt, investing just the 15%, following that quote unquote traditional path, great. But if you're somebody who wants much more in retirement, financial wise, and then who also just wants more out of life, even while they're tackling debt, I feel like there are other better paths to follow. Again, I think Dave Ramsey is a great resource. And at this point, I feel like his YouTube channel is more so a source of entertainment compared to education. So yes, he's still teaching these things, but there is just so much more to finances than just like, he makes it sound way, way simplified. And yes, it can be simple, but that's not usually how it works for most people. So I think it's absolutely okay to take a different path and you'll still be okay. Those are my thoughts on Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Feel free to comment down below what you think, and also feel free to share if you've had success with his 7 baby steps and kind of your timeline with following that. I would love to hear it. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It really supports my channel, and I'll see you in my next one.